stream. Hopefully, we are on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Twitch. Twitch is a new one. Huh?
Twitch is a new one. We didn't really prepare it. Like we just opened an account.
It's just
and
there. There's not.
We
even
hope
a
it
logo.
works.
Yeah. Okay.
We need to
Yes.
do the intro.
Yes. Let's hit it. I'll do it. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Datatopics Unplugged. It's a casual, lighthearted, your cozy corner of the web where we have a weekly short discussion on what's new in data. From sports to browsers again, anything goes. Today is 26th of January of 2024. My name is Murillo. I'm your host for today. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Bart.
Hi.
And we have some really special guests today. We have Tim.
Hello there.
And we have Thibaut.
Hello.
So Tim is the one that keeps the show running, the BizDev show running here at Data Roots, the king of BizDev. And Thibaut is one of our expert data strategists, sitting at maybe, are you taller than Sam de Bruin? No.
I don't know. 196.
196. Okay. Close enough. But
Gonna be tight.
Yes. Yes. We're also live streaming. We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitch, we are on X. So feel free to leave a question there and we can actually tackle them in the recording. Maybe Tim, would you like to introduce yourself for starters? Anything you'd like to share with everyone?
The last time I was on, you had something prepared, so I feel like I'm not the only one that's unprepared today.
Wow, way to put me on the spot.
Yeah.
You know,
maybe first take some time to. I feel like we're all looking a bit funny.
that is true.
I think
Wow.
it's
there's
only really
that's
obvious
funny,
for you, Tim, and Marilla.
Yeah, you guys usually look a bit weird.
But maybe for the people that are just listening, we are all in a different outfit, let's say, for some of us. Because today we have a topic, we have a sports analytics topic. So we thought it would be a fun idea to just dress up accordingly. So Tim is showing all his buffness on his arms. He's wearing an NBA shirt.
Yes.
But what's with the shirt?
Wait, it's actually one of the first basketball jerseys that I ever bought. And knowing that I played basketball for 20 years,
Yeah.
this is saying something.
It didn't grow up at all.
I haven't-
Same height.
Yeah, I'm standing as tall as I was when I was 6 years old. No, no. This is a very, very retro San Antonio, Philadelphia 76ers shirt. So it's Allen Iverson, who has been out of the league, the NBA, for I think about 13 years now. I think his last year was 2011. So it's actually one of the shirts I'm more proud of. And
Nice.
You can see that Tim is a business guy because he has like really nice pants, but then he has like a NBA shirt, showing off his buffness in his arms, and then like a dress pants, to.
this is how I usually visit clients.
Yes,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, so it's to throw them off, like always keep them on their toes.
Exactly. Never know them. Never let
So-
them know your next
So
move.
they first see this part, and then they're like, "Oh, what?" And then they see this, and then
they're
they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a
okay.
business."
I see.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Tim's head of our business development team. He's also a very good basketball player, right? Long history in basketball.
A long history, especially. I've been playing. It's my 20th year this year that I'm playing basketball. I used to play at for me quite a high level, so second division. Always been interested in sort of the mental part, the intellectual part of basketball. Which I think it's quite an intellectual game. I think everybody thinks this of this sport, but I truly approach this. So sports analytics, hence the interest in sports analytics, how it sort of developed in order to kind of improve.
Cool.
As you might see, I'm roughly 0.86 Thibaut tall. So I'm quite small for a basketball player. So you have to find other ways to get a competitive advantage.
Yeah. Tim is also quite the futsal player as well. Yes. Yeah. He's like
I,
an engine.
I was having a discussion with him yesterday. I used to nickname him Dr. Duncanstein.
I found that offensive.
And I didn't know.
He couldn't dunk.
It's a bit awkward because he's too short to
Yeah.
dunk. And his hands aren't big enough. That's what he told me yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I feel like the basket is
But-
too high for me to dunk. Like I see it as
Yeah.
it's the basket.
I kind of thought of that because I'm about the same height as Tim.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty tall. It's pretty up there.
It would be more something for Thibaut. But what does Thibaut do on a
Exactly.
sports?
I run.
He run.
That's
Yeah, but I
basically
think that's an understatement.
I
You
think
run
it's
a
an understanding.
lot.
So I think Thibaut is someone that only runs when it's more than 50 kilometers.
no, that's not true. That's
No,
not
you
true.
ran
No.
you ran less this morning.
See, this morning I didn't have enough time.
But
how
you do
much-
extreme stuff, right?
I like to run far because opposed to basketball, it doesn't require any intellectual effort and just as mindless as possible.
Okay,
So
good.
And what's the shirt you got going on today?
it is, well, opposed to Tim, I don't fit into the soccer shirts I bought when I was a child. So I wasn't able to bring one.
You grew.
So I
didn't.
So I brought one of my running crew here in Leuven, of which every Tuesday we go make some altitude, just hills, ups and downs. And here in Leuven, you have quite some. And we go, well, in Dutch we say patatjes rapen, which is like collect potatoes. And the potato is also one measurement unit, which is about 30 centimeters. And I have no idea how they came up with this, but this is also a bit of a mystery behind it.
Okay.
Cool. And what's the longest distance you've ever run, actually?
100 miles.
Miles.
And where did you do this?
In the Ardennes, so
Okay.
Luxembourg.
Up and down.
That's what I train for.
100
But, like,
miles.
When you said collect potatoes, I thought you were gonna do like one hill and just every time you go up and
bring
then
a
you go
potato.
down, you bring a potato and you put like
That
you
would be
stuff a bad backpack like every time, and at some point it just becomes impossible to move.
That would be a really cool idea.
It's a good workout. Good workout.
I think we have a new contest going on.
Yeah. It's the backyard ultra. It's like the potato ultra.
Man, 100 miles. That's 160 kilometers.
But-
It's like-
Even though I'm tall, I'm also not able to dunk. And Tim and I even followed volleyball classes once in university, and Tim
Okay.
can jump higher than I do. So it's a bit
Yeah,
awkward.
but for the dunking, it's better to do basketball classes. Not volleyball.
That's
You went to the wrong class.
I was trying to dunk on the volleyball court. I couldn't find it. Yeah.
Kept throwing it in the net. It was super weird.
Yeah, I also I have a Brazil shirt on. Going back to my roots, I also have a very stylish hat that I got some heat for already, but I'm not gonna hide my true self. I also play tennis. I actually play tennis with Thibaut, and actually it's you see how he's very like tall. He's very wide, you know, like so he can. But
Watch
you
out
can
what you're
tell.
gonna say.
You can tell he's not very explosive.
Oh yeah.
That's true.
Well, yeah.
So you see, and I think also for dunking, I think if you're explosive, you know, because like jumping vertically, you know, it's more related to explosive legs, I guess, right? So I can definitely see that, but I thought it was very interesting, you know, like the guy that runs 100 miles, but I think I'm more explosive than you are.
Oh, yeah, but
That's true.
Yeah.
But to me, it was take that, Thibaut. What about you, Bart? What kind of shirt you got going on?
Also a running shirt.
Nice.
Actually, Thibaut brought us for me. But it's a running shirt.
Yeah, but you had some issues with this shirt, no? As you grew older, you said.
The shirt tends to how should I explain this? It tends to shave sometimes.
Shave. What do you mean?
Create a bit of shave on sensitive areas,
Can you be more concrete? Than that?
somewhere around the torso.
Torso.
Two
Maybe.
separate areas
Two
that are
sep-
similar.
Now we're gonna see how good the moderation of YouTube works.
Yeah, he's talking about his nipples. If anyone was,
Yeah.
understand.
It's
Okay.
very coarse on the nipples.
Yeah.
This shirt. But
But
let's talk data.
running aside, yeah. But talking about running, right? Thibaut, you brought something AI-based running coaches.
Yes. So on that topic, recently I got contacted by Bart, who created a small app on his own running coach, which he has been creating, which I think it has been a hobby project for a while, Bart, which you've
Yeah,
been developing
it's true.
for, I think, months, years, I don't know.
No, not
But-
years. Well,
No?
I tried it a few times over the years. That is true. But now the new
With the upcoming of ChatGPT,
Yeah.
you made some major advancements. So the question I want to bring to this panel, if the classic running coach, which develops a training plan for you, is dead or not, with those
Mhm.
AI-based running coaches, which
And I see here you have a Trenara running app. That's one of
Yeah,
the.
so that's one. It's a Belgium, which is feel in Belgium is quite popular.
Hmm.
So it's just a runner who teamed up with a developer, and they developed an app which creates running schedule for you. But what I really like to those apps compared to the classic training schedules which you have from our training coaches, when I once bought one 5 years ago, and it was just like a 12-week schedule.
Yeah.
And then if you miss one session, you think, damn it, the complete schedule is gone now.
I see.
But the big advantage to these apps, I think, is that whenever you miss a session, it just adapts its schedule for you. And I think that's also the approach you took, Bart. And like, you give very textual feedback, right? Because what I find very hard with those apps is like, which metric are you going to optimize, and what do you give as input parameters?
Yeah. So I'll maybe explain a bit what I did.
Yeah.
So I made a very, very, very simple app that basically wraps OpenAI's API, ChatGPT, that everybody knows, to see if it could facilitate me in building a workout plan for the coming weeks, based on what I did in the past, based on my current status, which is typically something like you get from Garmin, you get from Trenara, you get from a lot of places, right? And it's what I did is that I ask ChatGPT basically to provide me with a workout for the coming day, for today actually, basically for today, based on what I did in the past and based on some biometric data. I use my I have an Oura ring where an Oura ring gives you a readiness score, it gives you a sleep score, so it also has this context. It also knows if I'm working towards something like a race, be it a running race or a cycling race, and so it knows a bit like how far in the future are these key points coming. What did I did in the past, and also a bit on how do I like my typical week to look like. So, for example, Friday is a relative rest day. And so these type of things it keeps into account. I also typically tell that every week I want to do at least one Zwift race, which is a cycling race. So I give it some input, and based on that, it generates a workout for today. And tomorrow it will generate one for tomorrow, and further, which is which actually works pretty well. I think we've been using it now since November. I want to say something like that.
But you put it at the test at Middelboot Trail, right?
Yeah. So I actually I built it, and then I actually wanted to do this to work towards a run in December somewhere. Yeah. And the workout went very well up to there, and then I got sick. But the result was still pretty okay. So it's hard to evaluate. Yeah. But what I noticed is, so normally I don't have a plan. I just work out a lot, but I don't have a plan, and that means that you, in hindsight, compared to now, you do much more of the same than I do now. Because now when I do an interval training, it's every time a different type of interval training. Sometimes 500 meters and 600 meters, then it's a fartlek. Like, so you have a much more variation. Well, if I don't have someone that says to me, like, do this, then it's okay, gonna do 800s again.
Yeah.
Like, you get a bit into this same pattern.
And also, do you feel like the personalized aspect of it, because you have a readiness score and a sleep score from the Oura ring? Do you think that that's because you mentioned like diversity, but also the fact that it's very personalized on how you're feeling today? Is this also a big?
Well, it helps me especially to do less.
Okay.
So when I saw the score before as well. I had the Oura ring already, and even before I had the Oura ring, I know when I wake up I've had a bad night, or I'm did a lot yesterday. But I tend to do more as an athlete. I tend to overdo my workouts than underdo, and it helps that you have someone, in this case my coach GPT.
Yeah.
That says, oh no, your readiness is bad. You did a hard workout yesterday. Today is a rest day. And if you want to go out, then it's max 20 minutes at this pace.
But to come back, like your original question was like, is this the end of sort of the coaching plans?
But maybe
and I'll get the thing is, what I built is extremely simple. It's extremely minimal. Like, it's a prompt.
even for you, it's a black box now, right?
Well, yeah, you can argue on what is the effectiveness. It's hard to evaluate for me at this
But
point.
did you use these apps as well before?
In the past, I've tried it a few times. Yeah, yeah. But what is today? Only to some extent. To some extent, it is in my prompt. But I think what you can very much enrich this prompt to say, I want to use this type of workout. I want to make sure that it's a phased approach. That you have so many weeks of build up and then a rest week. So you, in theory, you can add all this domain knowledge to the prompt as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
but that's where I think like those classical coaches, like every amateur running coach, they charge you 30-40 bucks for a 12-week schedule, which I think is ridiculous because they just give the same schedule to everybody and just adjust the paces.
Yeah.
Which I think this is much more valuable. But what you just said, that as an athlete, I tend to overtrain. I think having this psychological effect of a trainer who actually checks you if you stick to your schedule, that's where there's still value. But creating the schedule, I think that's a dead end.
And I'd argue that it depends a bit on like if you have a trainer that has hundreds of athletes and is hands out a schedule, that's not very personal. But this is actually very personal. So I had an example where I had a very long endurance run, and I had I didn't eat too much. I ate so I had a bit of how do you say this in English? I had was a bit hypoglycemic.
Yeah.
And I didn't eat before, and it didn't bring anything. So after the workout, so I also do a post-workout, some very lightweight description. I said, next time, in the description, next time, make sure to remind me that I eat something before and that I bring something. And because it has access to the whole context of everything that I did in the past, every time it gives me a long endurance run now, it gives me also this input, make sure to fuel, take something with you. Well,
yeah.
If you would have created this app, even if you would have created this app before, it would have taken a lot of development to have these things. Well, this is super minimal, the setup for this.
And does it also tell you to bring some food on your recovery runs and short runs? Because that's when I would...
No, only on the endurance runs.
Okay. And so it explicitly doesn't say so on your short runs?
Because
if it just says it all the time because you enter it once.
But I also made it explicit. So next time I do a long endurance run, make sure to...
Okay. Maybe a question then, because I feel like you understand how like prompt engineering works and all that. But do you think if it was just anyone, do you think it would be as effective? Because maybe the person would be like, oh, just remind me to bring food next time. But then for them, it's like they...
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
But I think the question here is not, can everybody build this? But I think the question is the new era of workout training apps. Will they use this as a basis or more traditional ones? And I think the new era of training apps will have to embrace this technology.
Yeah.
Like it brings a lot, I think.
Maybe so. You also mentioned like that a lot of the times the coach gives the same training to everyone, but this is an app. So I guess the app is just a database of different workouts, and based on what you click, they just almost give you the same papers. That's that kind of like, because I guess if it's really that standard, how come can you build a whole app around it? You know, like that. You see what I'm saying?
But I think you have some basic training concepts which are just...
Yeah, and there are apps. I think the Trenara one is an example. Like it's also personalized to some extent, and you can also give input, and it will correct. And if you weren't able to do it one day, it will push some stuff to later. So
okay.
Definitely,
So there's like a follow-up aspect to it. It's
yeah, and I don't know how they like. There were a lot of these apps, right? But today, how it's been developed, typically before the LLM era, is very deterministic, and like all these things, all these exceptions that happen, you need to think about, you need to program, you need to put out rules to it, and like what is the impact on the training schedule? Like, and it takes a lot of time. Versus like what I just made is in natural language is super easy.
But the thing I like about your approach as well is that you have very specialized data, right? And I think it's not today we have like Apple Health and all these things, you know, is like you can have a bit of a more personalized follow-up, right? And I think for me, even if I kind of relate to what you're saying, I don't know if that's the reason why you tend to overwork, but sometimes it's like if there is some health metric that is saying, oh, you should probably rest. And my first thinking is like, well, because I don't want to get injured, because my body is showing signs that I'm getting to a limit somehow, you know, like I didn't recover well or something. So I feel like the fear of injuring yourself, because the thing is, I don't want to not push myself because I'm quote unquote being lazy or because I don't feel like it or because of this. But I think when you say, well, no, I don't think you should push yourself because you may injure yourself, I think that's a more compelling argument.
But that brings us to the transparency of such algorithms, right? Like, why do they recommend a certain workout?
But do you know that on these apps, for example?
No.
Well, what you want in these apps is that there is a scientific team behind it that has implemented it. That's what you assume,
Yeah.
right? That there is.
To put a question on the thingy that you developed, is it sort of like do you have a rag based thing where it really tries to match, or is it simply prompt answer?
And I have the database of everything that I did in the past,
Yeah,
which
but
is
like-
injected in the prompt.
It is injected, like the full database is injected in a prompt.
Yeah, and that's why I need to use the GPT-4 Turbo, I think it's called, right?
Yeah.
Like with the very
Okay.
big context,
Yeah.
the most expensive one.
Okay.
I had
But-
to switch after a few weeks because it didn't fit in the context anymore.
yeah, you see,
No,
the
just,
founder of the company. No, but,
But
like,
we're still talking a few euros a month
Yeah.
to use this. Any app would have been more expensive.
but could you improve on what you developed simply by fine tuning, or like just a little bit of fine tuning the model with very good training programs and very good knowledge?
Yeah,
on,
I think that is the
on
next step.
training. Yeah, because what what I'd be concerned about is that. So the idea, and feel free to challenge me on this, but like ChatGPT and all the LLMs, they're trained on like a huge amounts of data. And I think there's, if you go on the internet right now and you look up training programs, you'll find just every 100,000 websites that have training programs and knowledge on. And I don't think that everything is as scientifically based. And from what I know of, like personally know of coaches, not everything is as scientifically based. And you can do a lot of stuff wrong with training, right? You have there's this principle of like you train, there's you feel worse, then you feel better, and if you start training too soon, then you create this effect of gradually getting worse. With the current thing is your app, it's the value there is mostly on having the structure, having something that structures you and that challenges you and gives you variety and these kind of things, but it's not on a scientific, like we know that this is what it's going to do with your body. This is
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think sometimes there's some variability between people, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. Is like, it's
What I'm
one
not
size
trying
fits
to do with
all.
my own is purely a very small experiment that
Yeah.
I'm doing personally.
Well,
What
now
I'm not
it's-
trying to do is to build something that is the best solution for the endurance run, right? Like I'm just having something, a tool, a utility to help me. That's what I'm building.
Yeah.
And it was super easy to build. It's a fair, and maybe also what I think where there is a very big much of value in LLMs is that the optimization part around workouts is something that is hard to grasp, because when you talk about optimization, what do I do best next? Very much depends on, you need to think about like, what are my inputs? And inputs are hard in sports. Like I can say I did an interval, for example. I can say that interval I did 600 meters, did it 5 times, then I rested X minutes, and then I did it again, and then I did some 2 hill repeats to close. And I can write this out. And so you have this description, but you end up in the end with numbers. So you have what is the duration, what was your heart rate, you have maybe your perceived exertion rate, which you see yourself, like how hard was it. You have a number of metrics. And you go from this description. This description is already very hard to put into something that is understandable by a computer. Just the intervals. These data points, like the duration, the heart rate, that's very easy to understand. But it is very hard for a computer to understand what was the effect of that if you do this in a deterministic way. Because your perceived exertion rate is like, okay, it's an 8. What does that mean then? It was very hard. But from the moment that you say, if in your post-workout description, if you say something, it was hard, but I felt fine. There was a bit of a snow on the ground, so that's why I didn't reach my speeds that I targeted for. So it's actually training is normal. That's what it should have been. And every coach, every person that reads that understands what it means. But for a computer to understand that is super hard. And with LLMs, you come much closer to understanding this natural language input, which in my eyes you do need to understand, like how is a person feeling when they do a workout. And that to me is the biggest factor to make something that is hard to capture in very deterministic, very specific metrics, make it understandable by a computer. And I think that is where LLMs will shine in this regard.
I think that the sport of running and running fast, it also lends itself a bit to that. I've been thinking for quite some time. Ever since you first said about the AI coach that you have, and I was like, oh, that's super cool. I want to think about how I do this for basketball. I have no clue.
Yeah.
I have no clue how I put a practice into words at all. Like it's so visual. I think like I would need like the visual modality to be completely fleshed out, which it isn't right now, to accurately describe. Like I could tape my basketball practice and try to explain what is happening and things that could be improved. Like,
but aren't they doing this in soccer with those GPX trackers, which is
Yeah.
harder indoor, I think, with basketball? But
Yeah.
I know in the US you have a few fancy stadiums where they do have GPX trackers inside their, or like location trackers.
Yeah, in basketball as well. In basketball, like I know, for example, that in the NBA, like all the games, you have, I don't know what, hundreds of cameras on a single basketball court, and they just have tracking stats. Like you can track how much time of possession somebody has. Like, oh, he has 10%, 20%, 30% of the time this person has the ball in their hands, and if this person in an offense, this person has the ball in their hands, they score on average 1.8 points per possession. Like these type of things they can track, and that's crazy, but it only works on an NBA level. I'm not even sure that they have this in the EuroLeague. Like, in the EuroLeague is the second best one. I'm not even sure that they have it there because it's super costly.
Yeah, but I think maybe like there's some types of sports, like maybe running, it lends more to natural language. Maybe basketball lends more to this. I also, for example, comparing basketball to football or soccer, depending where you are. I think it's like these kind of stats. It's not as meaningful in football.
No,
because it like I have like for example American football as well. I think it's a more structured sport in the sense that it stops more. You have you have more shot, like, or baseball. Baseball is a very good example. It's something that is very structured, and then you have other things like football, which is a bit less. And I actually have a point on that because I thought research thing.
There's been research to that. Like, whereas they've asked, like, of the five, I think it's five major leagues in the US. You have like NBA, the NFL, the Football League, NHL, the Hockey League. You have the MLB, Major League Baseball, and then the I'm missing one, MLS, the Soccer League. The five leagues, and they've asked, like, is data transformative to the way that you do things, like to the general manager and stuff like that. And they saw, for example, in baseball, which is obviously a sport that lends itself extremely well to it, it's very discrete. You have like discrete intervals. I think there were, like, the majority of people said it was hugely transformative. If you would have like the data maturity curve, like it's like it really transforms the way they play the sport. You have the on-base percentage, the Moneyball thingy.
It's a movie, by the way.
Yeah, and then you have NBA and NHL. They sort of were comparable in it that some teams really considered it to be already transformative. I think Houston Rockets was an example. There were others that really used data to change the way they play, and it's transforming slowly. But there were a couple of parameters, and it might be that we're citing the same article, but there's a couple of parameters. Is how many players do you have on the court? How much stoppage is there? Like how like, can you stop at certain points and say, like, okay, this is an event, and then you have another event. With baseball, it's like somebody pitches you, and then you have the event ends. With basketball, you can try and wrap it up in 24-second possessions. Same thing goes for a lot of sports. Football as well, you have the downs. But when you go to a sport like soccer, it's
football. I mean American football.
American football. Sorry.
Just football. Yeah.
When you go to soccer, there is a very fluent kind of sport where you have, like, there's very little stoppage, and then it becomes way more difficult to use analytics to transform the way that you do things. And I think running, then
why is soccer so much harder than basketball? Like, every time a ball changes position from team,
you have more players. You have 22 players compared to 10. in
Yeah.
soccer. So more difficult to model. If you would like to try and model things, it's more difficult to do. You have less discrete intervals. So um, a lot of soccer games, like there's a lot of soccer games end on 0-0. There's less things to measure. You can measure passes, but a pass will have like the end result is your, do I end 1-0, 2-0? Like it's very
Mhm.
difficult to track individual contributions to a success. Hence, making it
Yeah.
difficult to measure and transform the way you do
I
it.
have but the topic that I brought is very on point with what you're saying. But before I moved, I just wanted to touch a bit back on the running thing and also the how do you measure and like
Mhm.
the feeling. One thing I think I also have an Aura ring, and one of the things I thought was very nice is that they give you very low level or very raw data, like heart rate variability, temperature, all these
Mhm.
things. But they also give like high level interpretations of it,
Yeah.
right? Because for example, maybe Bart, you're really into running and you care about all these things, but maybe I don't really care, right? But then they give you a readiness score that is very easy to interpret,
Yeah,
right?
true. Yeah.
But it also aggregates these things, and I think that's one of the things I really like about the Oura Ring. Actually, I think it kind of caters to a range of people. Maybe you don't care what your temperature is or your heart rate is, your lowest heart rate when you're asleep, but you want to know how well you slept, or how much activity you've done, or yeah, all these things, right? And I think by being able to do both things, you can kind of cater to both groups. So one is super easy to interpret, but it's very like subjective, I guess. And I guess you can debate a bit how they come up with this number. And on the other end, is that is very concrete, is very, that's it, is factual, but it's also like, what does this mean for me, right? And I also even took that idea a bit more when I'm presenting insights to stakeholders, right? I can say this is something, or like, for example, if you talk about data quality, right? There's so many things we can measure, but like, is this table, is it a healthy table, right? And maybe you can have some high level things like this has an A score, and A is green because it's really good. And why you're saying this, and you can drill it down to other things.
Yeah, and to bring it back to Tim's, is maybe like with soccer, so many deals. There is actually so much data being created, like in a play, like
And what's
becomes it's hard to like what is the summarized message of that, right? Is this
exactly,
good player? Is it
and
not good player?
is
Is it good
all the
strategy?
data equally important?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have a player without the goalkeeper when the ball is all the way in the offense, does it matter so
Mm.
much what he's doing? Maybe, probably not, right? But like, it's still data, right? Maybe another point that I had, like, and maybe I'm just being a bit of devil's advocate, but I couldn't help but thinking it. You have this the program you did, and you have these coach apps and all these things, but you also mentioned like how maybe the runner coach just kind of gives the same workout to everyone, but there's some variability. And for me, sometimes I wonder, is like, man, like, just do something, like, just go out and run, like, maybe it's not going to be the most efficient, but it's much better than, because I had, like, even with diet and stuff, right? It's like, oh yeah, but let me research this diet, let me research this. It's like, man, just do something simple, something that is kind of agreed, and just stick to that. Like, I think sometimes for work, like when I say workout, I'm usually thinking of gym, like lifting weights, right? And then there's a whole bunch of different types of workouts, and maybe you should do leg day, rest day, this and this. And then for me, it's like, it's easy for me, and this is very personal, to almost like make up an excuse and not do anything. And the approach that I took is almost the opposite. It's like, I'm just gonna do something very simple, because I'm not the kind of guy that is very interested in this. I do feel better when I work out, but to me, it's like, let's just go, even if you're doing the same thing, just do something simple, but like have consistency. And I feel like doing that, I can get further in my goals, my health goals, but even like other things as well. Than if I was really trying to optimize for the best workout every time I go.
I think it's very personal, right?
I think it is, but I think it's also because I usually don't hear that argument so much from people. Usually, when people are discussing this, they're discussing, like, what's the most effective workout, what's the most effective diet. But I also feel like maybe people should also think like, don't worry about the most efficient. If you're not doing anything,
Depends on, yeah, well, yeah, there's a big gap between I'm not doing anything and I'm putting in all the time that I can, and I want to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah,
like
indeed.
that's a big difference. Like it's
But like, people are very different, right? But I feel like when people discuss diet, they usually discuss the higher end, right? The most
yeah, sure, that is true.
intricate,
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So, and also I'm thinking, like, indeed, like, if people are different and we get the same workout, how much are we optimizing by getting the best workout? Is it the 20% or is it the 80%? You know?
There's this, like, to add to the point of the like the food. You have a lot of people. I have a lot of people right now in sort of my inner circle of people that I know and that I interact with on a daily basis, that right now try to go vegetarian and not. And they're like, and a lot of my friends are like, yeah, but I'm not really a vegetarian because I eat like once a week I eat meat. And I'm like, yeah, but like, why are you doing this? It's a lot for ecological reasons, because you're reducing your carbon footprint and stuff like that. If you just eat once a week meat, you've reduced it a lot. Like, you've done
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
You can be happy. It's not because from time to time you eat meat that you're still a sinner. Like, you're doing fine. And we reduce a lot of these decisions, and also like the sporting system, we reduce this to binary. Is like, you're doing good or you're doing not, and it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
This week I heard another podcast that we're actually replacing religion by nutrition, health programs, exercise programs, and I find it a very valid,
Interesting take.
valid comparison.
Yeah. True. But are we okay to move to some more soccer?
Sure. Some data.
More
and
soccer.
AI.
Yes.
And AI, yes, indeed. So this is so actually I've known this for a while. I saw this at a meetup at in Leuven here. Actually, we actually went to the local team stadium, so they have like a room for doing presentations and whatnot. So this comes from the research department of KU Leuven.
Just to be clear, like, the local team is a professional soccer club. Eh? It's
Yes,
not.
yes, yes.
It's not like
Yeah, it's a professional, but it's like, well, I'm saying this because it's like second division in Belgium.
First,
Is it
first. Yeah, it's first.
Okay.
Hey,
They're quite. They're really
Mr.
stable.
Brazil.
It's like, it's not the.
No, okay, it is a professional team, yes. But I thought that when I first got here, I thought they were
Yeah.
second division. Okay,
It's actually true.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first division, so they are a professional team. They do have like a nice stadium. They do have like a nice room. They did the presentation and whatnot. So basically, this is from a research group at KU Leuven. Actually, I think I even because I'm also interested in this. I think the professor that leads a lot of this research, he even went to Barcelona to the football club and did like a conference. You know, he presented these things, and I really liked it because I think a lot of the problems that you're describing, Tim, are something that I also thought to myself. So the thing is, the name of the framework is called VAEP, and it's not like vaping. Like, it's a VAEP. It stands for valuing actions by estimating probabilities. So, and if you're not on any live stream, I would recommend having a look at the website later, which will be in the show notes. But they have some nice animations, right? So they start by saying how many actions there are on a football game, but then basically you can discretize this. So like passes, shots, and all these things, right? So the first thing they say that usually less than 1%, the actions are like, actually they say 1% is what counts. So again, there's a lot of actions that don't matter, right? Traditionally in football, you see shots, assists, and all these things.
Isn't that a very strong statement? Like, don't you need other actions to get to the 1%?
Yes, they're gonna get to that.
Okay.
They're gonna get to that. But so, and again, indeed, there's also a little video here. Maybe I'll point here for you guys. So they're basically saying, in football, you see shots and assists, but they give a very good example where a defender on the midfield, but he's still like a defender. The guy just past the goalkeeper, the second one, I guess. He makes a pass sideways to the left back. The left back sends a through ball all the way to the front, where I think Sané,
I think for Bart this must be very hard to understand.
Assist to
Not
Gabriel
such a
Jesus. But basically, it's like the guy finds a through ball that puts the ball almost next to the goal, and then the guy crosses and finishes. Traditionally, there are only two statistics that come up: the goal scoring, which is Gabriel Jesus, but he basically just pushes the ball in, and the assist of the guy that basically just crosses. But that a very crazy good through ball, it's not considered at all. Or it is as considered as the sideways pass on the defense, right? Because it's like percentage of passes accepted, right? So which clearly they influence the game differently, right? So then they carry on to kind of say how they model the game of football. So every action has a pre-action game state and a post-action game state. And we'll get to the states a bit more. But basically, there's the action, and that's how the game was before and after, right? And basically, what they also say is that the game, like, there's a probability of scoring a goal and a probability of conceding a goal before the action and then after the action, right? And the value of that action is how much that probability of scoring a goal will increase or decrease.
Mhm.
Okay. And then they say, okay, so the idea, the value is again the probability of scoring a goal minus the probability of conceding a goal. So there are two probabilities there.
How do you determine the probability of scoring a goal?
That's the cool thing. So they basically do this retroactively. So it's like almost in reinforcement learning, how you have the action that gets the reward, and then they give back
Mhm.
all the passes and stuff. They do something similar with the goal scores. So it's really probabilistic. A pass when the players are laid out like this in this direction increases the probability by this much because they see statistically that this pass X amount of times increase the probability by this much. So it's probability. It's a mathematical in the mathematical sense.
It's like a huge Markov chain of
Yeah.
events. Like every event leads to another event. Like
Yeah.
somebody gives a pass, leads to a pass, leads to an interception, leads to a pass, leads to a pass. And then when a goal is scored, it sort of back propagates like a neural network back propagation. It sort of back propagates all the way to the original sort of first pass that was given at the beginning of an offense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the states are, of course, never the same. You're never gonna have the same players in the same location giving the same pass in the same orientation. But like it's still close enough, right? Like it's like the state is like in a video game, right? Like in the game reinforcement learning. The states are not exactly the same, but they are similar. Like just because they're not exactly the same doesn't mean they're all equally different, right? And then you can do this again statistically. You do this for a whole bunch of times, and you can kind of see what actions, how much they're, how good they are, right? Yeah.
How many, like, how did he try to make discrete states? Because like you can have an infinite amount of states of, like, if you were trying to configure soccer players on the court,
Yeah.
and you have a ball, you have a referee, you have a goalkeeper, you have a minute, there's so many different states that you could possibly, because having 22 players configured on a court in the fifth minute of a soccer game,
Yeah.
between the 85th minute, is a completely different narrative.
Yeah, for sure.
And how do you make this actionable?
So yeah, so I'll get to that. I
Okay.
think, but so the way, so again, I don't have the full answer if I'm being honest,
No.
right? But I think they're showing here the game states, and they show like the change of the ball, the change of position in players. I believe they may even track all the players here.
Mhm.
But then you see like how body part before, body part after, all these things, how it influences, right? And in terms of making it actionable part, so what they do now is that they rate every action, and then you can see what actions were good in terms of what actions increase the probability of scoring a goal or
Mhm.
increase the probability of conceding a goal as well, right? And then once you have all the actions, you can attribute that action to a player. So you can see how much each player contributed to the game. And even on the meetup presentation, I remember this, that they were showing like the percentage of passes completed.
Mhm.
And then usually they're the defenders, because the defenders make the safest passes.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
But then they will show like, okay, but after you run to this framework, you can see that the most valuable passes was like Kevin De Bruyne, because usually the passes that he make leads to a goal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he even takes that in consideration, right? So here in the example, like Gabriel Jesus, he's Brazilian, by the way, just saying, he scored the goal. But even when you see the probability of like his score is not as high as other people, because the idea here is that they contribute more to scoring
I
goals.
see.
Mhm.
And then you can do this for like, how do you make this actionable? They also mentioned there how you can go. I think they went to the Dutch second division, and they started rating these players based on
Yeah.
the frameworks like this. And then they saw that after 2 years, they were in like the Premier League clubs.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So they saw how this was actually taking effect.
But this is
And-
in scouting. But how can a player improve itself?
Well, I
based
think
on
that's a
this?
different action. That's true. I think maybe, well, again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, right? Maybe you can say, well, you're doing a lot of passes, but usually the one, like, you're not influencing the game, right? I think that's already a metric. Or maybe you can run simulations and say, well, I'll pass this way or that way,
Yeah, but still, like, let's say they play the game. What should this player work on in the next training session?
So I think, well, again, I'm thinking myself when I was practicing, right? So for example, I would basically try to consciously change my style of play. So for example, if I'm a defensive midfielder, I'm going to try to pay more balls to the attackers straight away, right?
Mhm.
And then see if over time, like if that actually influences number of goals and everything. And then if not, then you can play more conservatively, you know?
A very simple way also of using this type of insight is like, imagine that I'm a player, and I think at some point in basketball it exists. It's like win shares. It's like how much is your contribution to a win, and they try to have a metric of, as a player, your contribution to a win, and I think it's really funny. But imagine that you have a low win share, so you don't contribute as much to a win. You could have a look at other players that are hugely influential to a win, and you could just watch film, like just by knowing, like, oh yeah, this is somebody that really, it's sort of just instead of making it like, it's not like you have this model and you just push a button and there's a number of action that you can improve, but it gives you insight, and sort of you can use these insights to say like, okay, what is my next level? All right, I just look in like the next segment of win shares, these type of players, so that would be my next step. What are they doing different compared to what I'm doing right now? And you can investigate this, and I think you can, there's different ways you can look at explainability of the model, and you can use explainability techniques to the model and try to find out what you could try to run what is it, the Shapley values,
values,
and be like, oh yeah, this is a huge positive
Yeah.
contribution, I have to do this. Yeah, sure, but I'm not sure if that will work that way. But
I think also one thing that is cool, I remember from the presentation, so it's not on this. They were also saying that once you have that, you can also compare players, right? You can say how many actions per game do you take, and what's the values in average of your action. And from that, this was, I think, a little while ago, but there's always the big debate, Messi or Ronaldo. And then they came up with a concrete, undisputable way to say that Messi is much better than Ronaldo. Like they were showing, like they plotted,
Okay.
and it's like Ronaldo is really good, but Messi was like you see the cluster of points. I think they plotted like literally on the x-axis the number of actions and the value. So you want to be on the top right, a lot of values with a lot of actions with a lot of value, and then you see the players kind of like distributed, but then you see Messi like completely isolated, And it was, and again, of course you can debate, right? But like, you're not going to debate the outcome, you're going to debate the process, right? And I think it's still fine, but if it's a very indisputable way of saying, if you agree with A, B, and C, then you have to agree with D, right? Which I thought was super cool. It's something you'd never have in football. Me coming from Brazil, big part of our culture is football, and a big part of it is just debating and discussing because it's never concrete, So, yeah.
But yeah, one of my all-time favorite podcasts it's called Thinking Basketball, and they do these type of, like, they constantly do these type of bits. Like they have an episode and it's what are the 10 best passers right now and how do we rank them, and they have just an hour-long debate. And I love this. This might sound super weird, but they try to rank, but they use different metrics for, like, because these days in basketball, what they used to do was they had sort of the same things. You have points, rebounds, assists. That was the first generation of sort of metrics that they tracked. And then the next thing that you start doing is you try to have an estimate of if you're on the court versus you have on-off numbers. Like if you're on the court, is the team doing good versus if the team, and then if you take the difference between these two, you have your impact. And then the next thing was that they sort of had to take into account the fact that, yeah, but you're not alone on the court, so you have to take into account the other 4 players, and there was a next generation of metrics. And what they sort of do in all these type of things, and I think it's interesting because if you look at Messi versus Ronaldo, who's the better player, it all depends on your view, right? Yeah, what is important to you, all very, very much. But for example, in basketball, the thing is also like Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, and you try to, there's the same debate going on for a long time, except they never played against each other. But they develop these metrics, and at some point you want to validate the fact that these metrics make sense, and how do you do that? And then you have the eye test, they always say. Like you look at basketball, and if you would ask 25 people, like, who's the best passer right now, and they all come to the same answer, but the guy that they are mentioning is only 25th in your metric, then maybe the metric doesn't make sense. And so there's this entire thing of developing descriptive metrics that sort of hold true in a debate, and I love how debate driven it is.
Yeah, it is. It's very like feeling.
Yeah.
And the descriptive metrics are the things that are very limited in their informative value.
Yeah.
That's where natural language shines.
Yeah.
Is there do you see in basket or in soccer, or like, do you see places where generative AI will play a big role?
I think I haven't given like I've tried to think about natural language specifically.
You can also think multimodal. Doesn't have to be natural language. It can be vision. Can be
multimodal right now already. Like right now, a lot of vision is used in basketball. Like I said, tracking stats, they're hugely popular right now. So it leads to more more informed decision making. But I think in the net language, not multimodal, more especially the vision part. Yes, for sure.
I think in maybe in terms of everything that is like person driven, like maybe the guy did a training or he did this or he feel pain or like these things. I think that's when the NLP and the maybe LLMs comes in place. It's like, oh, how do you feel about this game? How do you feel about this? Are you nervous? Maybe these things that are closer to the person. Like I think these, like even this framework, I think is more taking a step back and looking at the whole game as a whole. But when you start getting more individual level, and I think your question was also very relevant, Thibault, like how do I as a person can use this to improve myself?
Yeah.
I think that's when the LLMs part come. So it's harder like to. But yeah, we have time for a little game.
I think we need to look at you. You have a hard stop.
I do, but I think
But it's an interesting topic. I think one we should at some point come back to.
Definitely.
I think we did have a lot of extra topics on the backlog.
We did. We did.
But for another time.
For another time. But I think this is a very interesting discussion indeed, and I think it merges some passions of mine as well. So I'll be happy to have you guys back in the podcast soon. But for now, let's play quote or not. So do you know what it is about? Tim, you played it before. Thibault, do you know?
It used to have a different name. It was like
I
Yay
know.
or Jenye.
Kevin shot me down. But I'll explain anyways. I always ask, but I always explain. So the idea is that a puppet master, he picks two quotes from ChatGPT or your favorite LLM, and then he blends that with the real quote. And it's our job to identify what's the real quote and what is the fake quote. Last time Bart won for the first time.
Yes. Nice, thank you. Emphasis is on the winning and not on the first time.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyways, so he got to choose the person or the character, the quotes, and the fake and real one. So let's see what he got for us.
Yes, so I'm going to give two fake quotes, one real. Star Trek themed. That's what we decided last time.
Yes.
I thought you were gonna do like sports related. No, okay, sorry.
No.
Actually, that would have been good.
Would have been better. Yeah. But we decided last time already. So it's Star Trek themed.
Yes.
It's a quote from Data. Does everybody know Data? Oh, this is sad. Data is an android, a humanoid android, a robot, in other words, that first appeared in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Patrick Stewart was Jean-Luc Picard.
Okay.
Arguably the best Star Trek.
We're opening up this episode to so much outrage.
Well, arguably, I'd say maybe Deep Space Nine is. Anyway, let's go to the quotes of Data. So you have the context. It's an android robot. And I have three quotes. Let me get them. One is fake. If you laugh, do I not yearn to understand? Question mark. That's one. If you question me, do I not ponder?
Okay.
That's second. If you prick me, do I not leak?
Okay.
See, the fun thing about this is that it's an Android, right? So
It's an Android.
So it really feels like it doesn't feel like ChatGPT is even like too smooth already in the conversation. It's too human in the conversation to be like Android communication. So it's like the 2016 Facebook bot that they threw online and that sort of started.
This is simply Data.
Okay. Yeah,
It's an Android for Star Trek.
So wait. So the third one,
So the
I'm-
third one was, if you prick me, do I not leak?
Fake.
Yeah,
Fake.
You say fake.
Clearly.
definitely.
But you need to
fake.
pick the real one, huh?
I know. So,
Okay.
but that one is out of the game. I
Okay.
already increased my chances by 50%.
The other one is, if you question me, do I not ponder? The third one, if you laugh, do I not yearn to understand? Which one do you think is real?
I think the first one is true.
Okay.
I'll follow Mirdo on this one.
Good choice. Good choice, I must say.
I wanted to go for the first. I'm going to go for the second one, just to be contrarian.
But let me explain first my reasoning.
Okay.
I feel like you also emphasize that it's a robot. I also think that that's what you told ChatGPT. So of course the thing's gonna say like leak
I
and
think
like bleeding and all this. This doesn't
unlike
stop.
you, ChatGPT, who will know who data is.
You think-
I don't need to tell
this. Fair enough. Still think he's gonna focus a lot on the robot not bleeding kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think no, what was the first and second one?
If you
Ponder?
laugh, do I not yearn to understand? If you question me, do I not ponder?
Yeah, I feel like ponder is something like GPT.
But yearn as well.
Yeah, but I feel like he's like, if you think of a robot doesn't ponder, you know? Like, I don't know. I feel like those.
But a robot also doesn't yearn.
People, choices were made.
Yes, it's
Yes.
locked in. That's locked in. Let's see.
And I'm gonna.
All right.
The winner.
Really?
The only real one was, if you prick me, do I not leak?
No. Really? Wow, Bart. Great job.
I won.
Great job. Just I must say, you got pretty good at this.
And what's the context in which this quote occurs?
That's the one question too much. This specific one, I don't know.
But Google, like, give me.
Of this start, I've actually seen all the episodes, but I've doesn't really don't have an active memory on this quote.
Huh, wow.
But it is a recurring theme where data tries to understand human emotion at some point, tries to become.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's like what's the name? The
Sheldon Cooper? No.
No. That was like the story with the lion, the robot, and the never mind. Maybe it's a Brazilian thing. Wants to be a real boy, you know? It's like
It's Pinocchio.
cool. Yeah, then no, that's the one too.
Yeah.
But, good job, Bart. That means that next week you're also in charge of another
Yes.
one. But maybe
Did
We
let's.
set a team.
Did you win, though?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like no one got it, right? So
Yeah, but his.
I kept it.
he's still the champion.
What is the team for next week?
I'll let my guest decide.
I think Thibaut.
Yeah, he was the most critical. No, who was the critical one? I think it was Tim. No.
Critical?
Yeah, about
no
like
idea.
why he's not a sports figure. Or
Ah,
something.
yeah, that's true.
But maybe yeah, go
Mm.
for it. Who do you think Bart should come up with next time?
Inspired by Murilo's outfit, stay in the Brazilian team, please.
Oh, okay. For soccer or football.
Whatever you want. If you want Bolsonaro, it's also fine for me. It's,
Yeah, maybe let's not go there.
Yeah, no, I like it. The soccer. Like Ronaldo, like Il Fenomeno.
Fenomeno. You know who that is? But Bart doesn't know who that is.
No, but that's
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo Fenomeno.
No Ronaldo.
But you have, there's so many Ronaldos.
He's the one that had knee surgery.
But
Yeah, no, that's too much.
the fat one.
Okay, the overweight
the
one.
guy with nipple
we
issues
don't
right
say
now.
these things.
Ah, sorry. I thought.
Canceled him.
Okay,
All right.
Brazilian soccer.
Okay, I'll let you choose.
Okay.
Okay. How many Brazilian football players do you know?
Ronaldo.
He's got a point though.
That's okay. We can stay with Ronaldo. I'm not trying to.
Cunha.
Nice. All right. Next week, Ronaldo quote. Looking forward. Huh? I don't think you're gonna be able to fool me. Just saying. But, let's see.
Take it as a challenge.
Yes. Cool.
Enjoy the weekend, everybody.
Yes.
And for our listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Yes. Ciao.
We need